New reaction continues to pour in on the scathing Department of Justice Inspector General's report on James Comey. The IG finds the former FBI director violated agency rules in his handling of memos on his meetings with President Trump. The New York Post front page blaring "Leaker of the Free World." Let's bring in our headliner, Ken Starr, former independent counsel and a Fox News contributor. You're a guy who can take apart some legal issues and make them very sensible. What do you think? Have we missed anything in the coverage, in the assessments of this Inspector General report?
I don't think so. The 60-page report, there's some other pages as well, is so comprehensive and it is so devastating. What was very revealing to me was that while Jim Comey thought he was protecting the FBI, he wasn't at all. And that's the conclusion of an honest civil servant named Michael Horowitz. So the country is the better. We've had accountability. He's not going to go to jail, but we've had accountability for his misconduct. Comey violated time and again FBI rules, regulations, protocol, and his own employment.
But it went to the DOJ. They decided not to prosecute. Why not?
Well, there was no proof of his leaking classified information. This was confidential information. Some of the memos that he prepared were classified. But he at least was careful in terms of what he leaked. And the espionage laws and the other laws that go to protecting classified information are fairly limited. And so what he did was wrong. It was professionally wrong. It was morally wrong. It was self-righteous and so forth, but it did not commit a crime.
Kimberly Strassel has a piece in the Wall Street Journal this morning, Sneaky, Leaky James Comey. In that piece, she writes, this is the nub of it. Mr. Comey clearly detested Mr. Trump from the start. He abused his power and used leaky, sneaky tricks to undermine the presidency. Mr. Comey told the Inspector General he had to do it because it was important to the nation, and I love this country. It should disturb Americans that a man who has now been repeatedly admonished for acting unilaterally and who so dishonestly spins his actions in history held positions of such power for so long. Based on the response now from the DOJ, and he will not go to jail and he will not be prosecuted, right. What's to deter this from happening again?
Well, I think, first of all, just to have a professional reputation sullied the way this report devastates James Comey, it really does. And this is not personal. This is you deliberately set out on a course of professional conduct that was utterly wrong, and you knew it to be wrong. That is to say, the report makes it very clear that James Comey is not only an experienced professional in the Justice Department and the FBI, he had been specifically trained, and then he had further training. The report is so valuable because it just documents time and again that he was so willful in what he was doing in preparing these memoranda, and then especially the leaking of the memoranda to the New York Times through his attorney and friend at Columbia University. Absolutely unpardonable. So he's been called out.
The president tweeted this. He says the fact that James Comey was not prosecuted for the absolutely horrible things he did just shows how fair and reasonable Attorney General Bill Barr is. So many people and experts that I've watched and read would have taken an entirely different course. Comey got lucky. Is the president right on that?
Well, I think Bill Barr is the consummate professional, and even though he's been very, I believe, unfairly criticized in connection with the Mueller report, what we see now is, hey, Barr is a stand-up guy who makes the tough decisions, and he's going to make it based on the law and based on the facts. He did the right thing.
Former Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein appeared to take a shot at the former FBI Director James Comey in this response on Twitter. He said it is important to follow established policies and procedures, especially when the stakes are high. We should be most on guard when we believe that our own uncomfortable circumstances justify ignoring principles respected by our predecessors. You know, in the wake of this, John was talking to Congressman Pete King earlier, someone who has known James Comey for quite some time. Andy McCarthy was on this program yesterday, also saying how long he has known James Comey, and just the sheer disappointment from some of his colleagues and friends of the past.
Exactly, and the report itself from Michael Horowitz documents the fact that the people who worked with James Comey, names that we're familiar with, such as Peter Strzok, were disappointed to learn what he had done in terms of, we're talking specifically about the leaking to the New York Times, that they were shocked, that they were surprised. So this has been a reckoning for Jim Comey in terms of his stewardship.
You wouldn't know that by looking at his Twitter feed, because he almost instantaneously reacted on Twitter following the release of this report yesterday, almost claiming vindication.
That was very odd, but there's the old expression there, none so blind as those who will not see. This report is devastating to James Comey's conduct in the most important kind of part of his work, and that is his relationship with the President of the United States, duly elected by the people. And so the sneaky, leaky description that Kimberly Strassel articulated, I think, unfortunately for the country, that we want honest FBI agents and leaders.
And it appears that he had been reading up on the Steele dossier well before President Trump took office. He felt that this man was not going to be suited to the Oval Office, and he wanted to take steps to, impugn him at the very least.
And that's putting oneself above the process, right? That I have such confidence in my own judgment that I'm going to violate the rule of law.
Ken Starr, great to have you here on that.
And thanks for fighting through the cold.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
All right.